Are you an extreme sports junkie? What do I mean? Well, it seems like every season there are new sports that you can try. There's alpine downhill skiing, there's skydiving, there is four-wheeling off-road. Wow, just climbing up the mountainside. I used to see that when I lived in Colorado. And those sports get your adrenaline going. There's so much high levels of energy, and whoo, it's like plug me in. I can keep running forever if I get enough of that. But there's something that extreme sports and your marriage has in common. That's what I'm going to unpack for you today. On this video, we're talking about the greatest risk that you can take in your marriage. I'm Mary Whitman Ortiz of Limitless Intimacy, bringing you the tips and the tools that you need to create great intimacy in your marriage. On this channel, we give you communication strategies and intimacy made simple steps, all from a Christian point of view. So if you're new here, please consider subscribing. All right, let's get back to our question. What's the greatest risk you need to take in your marriage? Well, actually, that risk is being transparent. It's developing trust. That is the only way that you will get to this really meaningful, fulfilling place of what I call oneness in marriage. And certainly when it comes to sexual intimacy, oneness is what you are going for. That is your goal right there. That is the sweet spot that God designed sexual intimacy as a gift to marriage. But don't take my word for it. Let's look at scripture. There's a passage. It's in 1 Peter 3, verses 5 through 7. And this talks about how the wife can trust her husband because she is seen as an equal and she's not living from any type of fear. There's no intimidation in her marriage. It also says that the husband can love tenderly because there is full recognition of his role. So here you have it. Trust, tenderness, all of that is creating transparency, creating this beautiful sweet spot of connection. You've probably known what it was, but maybe didn't even have the words to describe it. But that is exactly what is going to take your marriage to the next level. And I know it's a risk to get there because you might feel like you could be rejected. You might feel like, I'm going to be a failure. But you keep on going. That's a part of the risk. Hey, are you getting value from this? I hope so. If you are, will you give us a thumbs up and put in the comments, do you like extreme sports? What's your go-to sport? Now, let's get back to that whole trust, transparency, oneness, risk process in our marriage. When you are in that place of transparency, you are known, you are heard, you are seen, you are understood, you are loved, and it just kind of vibrates through every part of your being when that's going on. What happens when you aren't experiencing trust, transparency, and oneness? Well, this is pretty sad because there can be disrespect that's growing. You can feel like you're being used, even in your marriage. And then that leads to the twofold that's really sad: obligation, resentment. It's pretty much the opposite of that place of oneness, and you can feel it in the atmosphere when you've made that shift. We want to get you back to living in oneness, and I'm going to give you 3 very specific steps that you can take. But I also want to know, are you a ministry leader or a mental health professional that wants to know about sexual wholeness from God's point of view. Do you realize this is what your couples need? I'm offering a sexual wholeness training on November 17th and 18th. I would love to invite you to join. We're going to unpack some of the trends, the history in sexual expression. We're going to talk about those core needs that couples have and practical ways to bring it about. We're going to talk about the language that opens up dialogue and gets rid of that awkwardness when it comes to talking about sex. So please check that out in the links. And now for those three very, very specific steps that are going to help you as you go forward. Here we go. Number one, create an environment where answering yes or no are both okay. We want both spouses to feel totally comfortable in how they show up in intimacy. Number two, learn emotional language. Might not be your go-to, but it is a part of the risk that you take learning something new. Wow, what an effort that will show. What love that will communicate to your spouse when you learn that. Number three, choose spirit, soul, body, for your oneness, for your intimacy. Not just a physical act of sex, but that total way that you can communicate. That is the way to create a thriving marriage. Just remember, God's design for sexual intimacy in marriage is to build a true emotional connection that just can't help but overflow into great sexual intimacy.